It still blows my mind how many SCP entries there are. Like, holy smokes. Series 4 covers numbers 3,000 to 3,999. That's a lot of writing, folks. It's a team effort, sure, but my goodness, that covers a lot of ground. To distill approximately 1,000 anomalies into the 5 scariest is a challenge indeed, but I'll do my best to bring you only the freshest and freakiest. Anything less would just be an affront, right? Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the Scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 scariest SCP monsters from Series 4. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more top tier terrors. Perfect, let's get going. Also, try not to hate me too much if your fave doesn't make the list. There's always next time. Perfect, let's get going. Coming in at number 5, we've got SCP-3007. You would think that art like this wouldn't be too terrifying, but when you put all the pieces together, things get dire. This SCP first presents itself as a hallucinogenic phenomenon. Folks afflicted with it start seeing things at random, and it doesn't seem to have a set pattern. So one day you might just wake up and start seeing visions of a terrible place 4 times a day until you die. Pleasant, right? Well, take solace in the knowledge that you could be seeing the potential end of our world before it happens. That's a comforting notion, right? Subjects have reported feeling like they're transported to a new location. The place doesn't resemble anything on Earth and has not been found to actually exist. It might be real, but nobody's proven it yet. Be careful while hallucinating too. You might feel like you're somewhere else, but you're still very much in the real world. More than one subject has died by falling from heights or walking into high danger areas. Okay, so back to the hallucinations themselves and what that means for our survival. Subjects say that the place they're transported to is dim and dingy with a particular aroma that is less than pleasant. Usually they appear in a high up place overlooking an empty city. Tall, pillar-shaped buildings abound. Everything seems to be made of metal. Look a little closer and you'll notice some horrifying corpses. Humans and animals melted, compressed into cubes, mummified, host to additional bloody limbs. Upsetting to say the least. Walking around, one might even say that it appears that someone was playing with the city. Someone with enough power to treat corporeal beings as playthings. Still, it's just an illusory city, right? What danger could it pose? More than you'd think, apparently. The Foundation found an artist who was subject to hallucinating these visions. They got him to walk through and report on what he was seeing. He eventually found a series of paintings and recreated them as best he could. The artwork seems to tell the story of a once prosperous society destroyed by a mysterious red energy, and as it turns out, the red energy might be making its way to Earth via the hallucinators. Uh-oh. Coming in at number 4, we've got SCP-3999. Careful reading too far into this one, it's a real head hurter. Written as a quasi-love letter to the SCP Foundation as a whole, 3999 is a world-ending force that decided to focus specifically on one researcher. Instead of causing a ZK-class end-of-reality scenario, it lured in researcher Talaran and forced him to live inside a million different universes meant only to cause him immense pain. He endures torture after heinous torture at the hands of this SCP. He watches his family get executed over and over, gets trapped in a punchline-less joke for an eternity, is melted down to nothing and eaten by animals, filled with water till he bursts, and more. Talaran lives through physical pain of the highest degree and is mentally annihilated more than once. The way this entry is written is quite unique and employs all sorts of storytelling tricks to get different points across. Sometimes it reads like a standard containment procedure, other times like a prose poem. 3999 is warping reality as we know it, and Talaran somehow manages to put it into words. It's often confusing and disjointed, but the overall effect is definitely worth it. As he is ground down to nothing and brought back to suffer over and over again, he develops a sort of numbness to it all. And by becoming numb, he manages to survive despite it all. Is that even really a life worth living though? Is it heroic or masochistic, his living through the torture? Did any such entity ever exist, or did he just make it all up? Questions any SCP fan might stumble across while reading any given entry. Coming in at number 3, we've got SCP-3288. One singular uncontained instance of this SCP could trigger an SK class dominant shift scenario within 100 years, if not sooner. Not good. Predatory humanoids, these weirdos often have a bunch of odd characteristics delineating them from other creatures in the genus Homo. They're known for having multiple rows of gigantic teeth set in jaws characterized by massive underbites. fluctuating facial symmetry, long and plentiful fingers and toes, albinism, excellent low light vision, the ability to rush about on 2 or 4 limbs, crazy fast maturation, and more make these awful creatures a sight to behold. All of these physical characteristics would be enough to classify them as horrible beasts and get on with our lives, but there are a few things that make them extra awful. 1, they look emaciated but are super strong. If you came across one, you might think, look at those arms, they look so freaking cute, they look like little cigarettes. But in fact, you could not smoke them, roast them, or ghost them. But being strong isn't the only odd characteristic that 3288 exhibits. They also have crazy delusions of grandeur and malignant narcissism, and of course, an addiction to human flesh. They're fast, strong, self-obsessed, and hungry for you. Apparently these traits were developed over time through extensive inbreeding, which is just another layer of horrible that I really don't want to address. They believe that their bloodline is very pure and must be preserved at all costs. I say roast them all. Coming in at number 2, we've got SCP-3256. Arachnophobes might want to leave the room for this one, it gets pretty gnarly. 3256 is a memetic anomaly that manifests in information related to murders, fitting the MO of a quasi-famous serial killer. The Brockton Bay binder was active in the New England area in the late 90s, kidnapping men, binding them with spider silk, and covering all facial openings. Kinda odd, especially for a serial killer. However, the original killer was never found, and the memetic qualities of this anomaly have made it so copycats appear quite often. It's unknown how exactly the anomaly is transferred from person to person, but once they're under its influence, weird stuff starts happening. They're often compelled to carry out at least one murder using the same technique as the binder, and usually the killings result in some paranormal nonsense. Autopsies have been extremely odd, with some of the bodies being bound in spider silk. Further investigation reveals that their insides are sometimes rubbery and gooey. If that wasn't enough to freak you out, you might also like to hear about the spider bodies. Yeah, some people connected to 3256 have ended up being totally composed of spider parts. They look human, but once you get up close enough, you'll see all sorts of tiny, intricate, terrifying bits and pieces. And if a dead person made of spiders is scary, then a living one is a total nightmare. Apparently, some agents involved with the investigation of 3256 laid eyes on a living, moving human body comprised entirely of spiders. That's something you can never unsee. And finally, at number 1, SCP-3895. Listen to the first paragraph of 3895's description and tell me you're not a little worried. SCP-3895 is a Category 4 hostile hyperphysical entity which has successfully achieved corporeal manifestation within conventional reality. It is actively attempting to assimilate all life on Earth. Uh-oh. An organized whole comprised of all sorts of biological organisms, this thing can assimilate and make use of any number of species. However, most of it is made up of necrotic human tissue. Whenever it assimilates a new thing into its repertoire, hideous mutations begin. It can take on many forms to ensure that it's well suited for any situation. And when it takes over humans, it will often change up its behaviors and tactics. Anytime a threat is perceived, it can change and grow in order to deal with it. 3895 organizes all these little amorphous flesh creatures into a neat hierarchy. The biggest usually have the most brain power too, so they lead the charge with smaller entities following their lead. The worst thing has nothing to do with shape-shifting or the absorption of human flesh though. What creeps folks out the most about 3895 is the fact that it feels motherly towards humans. It's trying to absorb us so that it can give birth to something new. I can love you through your own corpses. It is time to come home. Mother knows best. Somebody get Freud on the line. Holy moly. Series 4 has some heavy hitters and a lot of long articles. If you want a lengthy read, look no further. So, what'd you think of the list? Which Series 4 monster freaks you out the most? What series do you like best? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more hypothetical ones from the top 5 scary conspiracy theories that might be true. Jeffro56 says my doctor's an alien. He probed me the other day. Sadly, I still have memories of it. He probably told you something along the lines of, it's for your own good too, didn't he? Kazuma-kun says, my conspiracy theory is that humans are too good at connecting the dots for their own good. Instead of working so hard to find or make up new problems, they should be putting that energy into fixing the ones we already know exist. It's basically societal procrastination. I don't think that's a conspiracy theory, I think it's pretty correct. To make it conspiratorial, we need to blame the Illuminati and the powers that be for distracting us with all these dots to connect. For if we could band together and solve the major issues, we wouldn't be bound by their rules any longer. Rise up. Kyle Smith says my favorite alien theory is that Earth is a mental asylum for other aliens and they use it as entertainment, possibly reality TV. When you think about it, that would explain some of the reality TV shows. The aliens are in control. That kind of sounds like something that Rick and Morty would deal with. Dan Harmony, listening? AW says they're hiding Pokemon at Area 51. It's true. I knew it. It's only a matter of time before I have a milk tank of my very own. And Wayne Miller says, I am Russian and I ride bear to work. No, you're doing it all wrong. In Soviet Russia, the bear rides you to work. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I play some records backwards on 16 speed, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more perfect perdition. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.